bit of Rita is all I need. Welcome back to Bizarre Podcast Dogs Must Die. My name is Grant. You can call him Chip. And as promised, it is time for another very special guest. Please introduce yourself as you would like to be introduced.
Hey, I am Sarah of House McCostumes. You can call me Sarah McCostumes or just Sarah if you like. And my life and fashion sense has been irrevocably changed by JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And I'm here to talk about it.
I have to ask, I guess, in what ways has your life been changed? And I guess as a lead up to that, how did you discover JoJo's? How did this franchise enter your life?
I'm a costume person. I'm a costume maker, costume designer, and I just never saw the appeal of fashion until I started reading specifically the JoJo's manga. And that only really becomes relevant in later parts. But I wanted to go on for this specific section because I think that Rohan Kishibe is the character where all that starts with and comes from. And just the knock-on effect that therefore Rohan Kishibe has had in my life has been just quite subtle. But for example, the only lipsticks I own are blue, yellow, and green, stuff like that.
We did commit a crime last week. We never mentioned Rohan's crop jacket. And, his abs are just out the whole time.
No.
In the Jonkin Boy episode.
We'll get to it. But specifically as to how I discovered JoJo, in about 2012, 2010, I was a huge progressive rock fan. My favorite bands were Yes, Pink Floyd, really into Led Zeppelin and stuff. And that meme kept going around with the Yes song of Roundabout. And I was like, Yes is my favorite band. What the fuck is this about? And
where's the other 8 minutes? Wait.
Exactly. And then I start watching JoJo. I'm like, well, this kind of sucks. I don't care about this. And then eventually I actually get through the first 2 episodes and there's a character called Tarkus. And I'm like, Tarkus? That's my favorite Emerson, Lake and Palmer album. There's a guy called Bill Bruford. And I was just I was lost to the JoJo franchise from then on.
That is amazing. That's...
Yeah, I actually, I think since then it's been a bit of a Ouroboros sort of strip of JoJo's also getting me into new bands and getting me even more into Yes. And I actually nearly got kicked out of a Yes concert because I was so excited when they played Roundabout because I was like, that's the JoJo song now. And all the sort of 50, 60-year-olds sitting around me just moved away and possibly made some complaints about me, but we got to stay in there. I got to see Bill Bruford, my favorite JoJo character.
Oh my god. Yeah, I wonder how many people in a Yes concert in the audience would be a JoJo knower at this point. One person every concert is just like, yes, I'm here for the JoJo song.
Because I did wear a JoJo t-shirt to that gig.
Okay.
No one noticed. It's very sad.
So there is one, and for that one, it was you.
Yeah. You get one.
So today we are talking about the middle section of Part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable. All of the episodes with the second OP, basically.
Yeah.
This time, I'm going to posit people like JoJo's because for all of the variety, for all the changes, and we're going to talk about a lot, even for a middle section, new things are introduced much more than, say, the second quarter of Stardust Crusaders. But for all of that, there's always a return to the familiar. Kira is very different from our previous main villains, but just having one around feels more like JoJo's, right? More than, say, the first half of Diamond is Unbreakable does without him. Without a him.
Man, this second third of Part 4 starts out strong by giving us Rohan. A large portion of all the people who get beaten up in Part 4 eventually either become friends or at least docile towards the protagonists.
They're tamed, yes.
Yeah, but Rohan, obviously Rohan being a bit more special than a lot of the other characters introduced because he's not quite a self-insert, but he is what Araki seems to believe a perfect manga artist is.
And he is perhaps the least docile. He is the wild stallion you cannot break, you know?
Yeah. At most, he'll eat oats out of your hand now, and that's about it. But then he goes back to flailing around and kicking. I just really enjoy Rohan for a bunch of reasons. He's such a dick, and everyone in the show knows it and is constantly expressing how much of a dick he is. But he's just useful enough that he just keeps being around.
And it's that perception that absolutely universal. There's no one in Rohan's corner. There's just, again, Koichi who doesn't know how to say no to him.
Yeah, he's
but
too nice.
That gives you the permission to like this awful man.
Yeah.
Rohan feels less like specifically a self-insert, like this is representing Araki himself, so much as Rohan is representing the things Araki likes, such as manga and fashion and sheer horror. There's like a few things that Rohan says, and I'm like, this is just an opinion that Araki wanted to get out there for the readers. Like, he's sort of like a vehicle for Araki to say things through.
That little spiel that Rohan goes through in the two-parter where he's first introduced, where he's talking about how you have to experience reality to be able to bring that realness to your stories. It just makes me wonder, has Araki ever thought about licking a spider?
Poor spider, ripped to a real one.
But yeah, that does come across to me as something Araki also believes, because like for a whole lot of his JoJo parts, he travels and goes to as many of the locations that he wants to write into his story as possible. Like he went all over the place for part 3. He goes all over. He visited America a whole bunch for part 6. When we eventually get to part 6, oh boy, where I feel like the fashion goes even more into overdrive. Good lord. But yeah, that feels very much like an actual thing Araki believes and also really wanted to find a way to talk about.
Yeah, there is like, even in this part, there's a lot, especially when Jotaro and Josuke are going like rat hunting, and there's a lot of just like the Araki facts are inserted. I'm like, yeah, you find this interesting, and you're like, all right, okay, where's there like a little hole in my manga that I can just stretch apart and insert this fact into? People need to know this.
Yeah.
This Zoo Books gift subscription is going to be worth it, I swear.
It just makes me wonder if the whole little like Shigechi fight was originally come up with him just going like, I need material, and then he just opened up his wallet and he had a coupon. He was like, that's it. I'll make a stand based on this coupon.
Yeah.
From the get-go with the Rohan fight and everything after this, for this entire stretch of episodes, I feel like a lot of the fights get even more creative and even more less combat focused than before.
Yeah.
I mean, the Shigechi fight is an extended chase scene.
Yeah.
It has moments of combat, but it's like saying that, any given spy movie has a shootout when, someone's just like getting their back window shot. Like, no, it's a chase scene.
And there's so many of the like stand fights, I noticed this, they're not quite enemies, they're just like the one with the beautician, the one with the like the ghost alley, or even the weird like Janken boy, and it's so many like, and even stuff like the Yoshikage Kira is trying to get his hand back from Shigechi. Like, that's not a fight where like, oh, there's an enemy stand. It's just like weird shit is happening.
Yeah.
So many of them almost feel just either like, okay, we're having a weird social dispute, but with ghosts involved. Or or if it's not a straight up social dispute, it's like, and this happens even more in later parts, I feel, where entire stand fights are just more like really mortifying social situations.
Yeah.
Where, like, especially in some later fights where it's just more like, oh god, this is either really embarrassing and I can't tell people about this because the nature of the stand will make me look like a fucking fool, or something like that. Like, some of these sometimes just feel like nightmares that you might have about like a really awkward social situation where no one believes you that this thing is happening, or it's just really embarrassing. Like, even with Kira, who's the fucking villain the whole time, like, it's still kind of a stressful episode because he's just constantly in hiding trying to snatch his fucking bag from these kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Kira is the most embarrassable man. Like, he is so invested in not being seen or noticed. Like, sure, part of it is that's how he survives as an unknown serial killer, but he's got terrible social anxiety.
Yeah.
Poor David Bowie.
Just like sending his suit back would be mortifying. He can't like, yeah, I will eat this food that somebody else ordered. It's my fault.
Because Kira is the first like more low key JoJo villain. Because previously there was like Angelo, and it was like, yeah, he does all this murder and sexual assault, and he's the most evil person ever. But the like subtlety of Kira and the sheer relatability of him, it's simply good.
Kira's great. I mean, Kira's not great. I do not endorse the actions of Yoshikage Kira, but Kira casts such a long shadow that, like, when I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, it took me a while to remember that Rohan was also added to the cast. Like, all my thoughts were Kira thoughts.
He is one of the biggest standout villains in all of JoJo, for me at least. But yeah, it's such an interesting contrast comparing him between basically any and all other villains in JoJo. Every single major villain we've had has been a threat to the world, and this guy does not give a fuck about the world. He just gives a fuck about his own little chunk of reality he's carved out that he wants to keep, stable and routine. I'm pretty sure there are guys that Jotaro fought in Stardust Crusaders who have a higher kill count than Kira. Like, he feels like, even just among other normal villains and other parts, he feels like a lesser threat. He's just a really bad guy, though.
He's motivated by bedtime instead of like enslaving all of humanity or just eating everyone on Earth.
Yeah, which is so much more sinister because we can all relate to that. I do just want to get a good night's sleep. And a nice sandwich.
That I eat out of a hand. What a freak.
Well,
what a fucking freak.
Taste is taste.
I really do love that speech he gives to Shigechi, though, about his life's routine. It's such a good way of introducing his entire philosophy in like a minute.
Yeah, like that's probably the part of JoJo's Part 4 that I just come back and watch it every so often, are the Kira episodes. And sometimes the Rat episodes, for some reason, I find them compelling.
Why don't we get to see the grandparent cube get healed? Worried about the cube of grandparent meat. It's still alive. Help them.
By now, I doubt they're still alive.
Oh, man.
All the mundane rats have been getting chunks, too. There's not a lot left. At the beginning of Diamond is Unbreakable, I was like, oh, I know what this is. This is a cop show. This is a supernatural, like, no badges, but this is a cop show. And those are generally about, heroes putting down a threat to normal society. Like, things work, but then there's a bad guy. We catch the bad guy, and now everything's hunky-dory again. But Diamond is Unbreakable takes pains to make it clear that Kira is the embodiment of that society. Like, whereas something like Dio coming back yet again would be much more normal for like the procedural genre.
Yeah, like we talked about it, or the first episode featuring him. Yeah, and he does feel very much like some other stories like American Psycho and other things, where it's just trying to be the ideal citizen makes you fucking insane. Trying to embody all of those different ideals or whatever. I had something else I was going to say with this, and it just shot out of my head. Heaven's Door got to me and wrote it out of my mind. It's such a powerful stand.
It happens to the best of us. It's okay.
Yeah.
You like manga too much. You're so vulnerable.
Yeah, it's true. Every time I see a manga, I just lose a memory.
Speaking of real life, and it is notable that compared to previous parts and even previous of this section, like every fight in this section is just dealing with an aspect of everyday life that, maybe Araki just finds it kind of annoying when people keep going to the beautician thinking that that's going to change their life. I'm just going to write like 3 or 4 chapters about that. Isn't it annoying when like a rat comes into my grandparents' house and turns them into a weird cube and puts them in the fridge? I hate that. I'm going to write some chapters about it.
Big old rat artillery. Why doesn't the rat sit in it? There's a chair.
I mean, the rat's hideous, but for some reason I still think that sounds cute.
I think it really speaks to how much of Diamond is Unbreakable is about the embodiment of opposites, right? Like, the dumbest boy alive is a natural-born stand genius.
Yeah.
And who has the most like joie de vivre in all of Morio? The dead girl.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, of course, your murderous deviant is impossible to find because he's the boringest man alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I also wonder if there's any aspect to the creation of Kira that's based in specifically like the cultural work ethic you're meant to have in Japan a lot of the time. I completely forget what Kira's job even was for that convenience store. Was he just like an accountant or something like that? He
was a manager of some sort, like a middle manager.
Okay, yeah. So many of those jobs just seem soul crushing. And I wonder if that's also meant to be a factor of why Kira is what he is.
Yeah, although it from the way he's written, it feels more like he's shaped himself into the perfect cog to go into the blood machine.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
In order so that he can do his hand crimes.
No, yeah, I guess from the Heartfather episode, too, just looking at the couple of childhood photos you can see of him, he also seemed, as JoJo has established before, babies can just be born evil.
Yeah.
And from the photos of child
time
Kira...
and time again, it keeps happening.
From the photos of child Kira, it does make it appear that he was born just simply evil.
But, I mean, he's a product of his father, which is another thing we learned very important there. Like, it's something he and Dio have in common. Bad dads. They got bad dads.
Dads.
Whereas Dio's was abusive, obviously. Kira's is just overindulgent. You know, if maybe Pappy Kira had set some boundaries, said, no murder is allowed in under my roof, we might not be here.
Yeah. God, there really are so many bad dads in JoJo, aren't there? Even George Joestar sucks.
But just like Kira being so outwardly normal and average and unremarkable, he had a present and involved father and turned out to be the monster that he is. Whereas Josuke and Okuyasu's stories are an absent and also an abusive father, and they turned out to be nice, sweet boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're saying with Josuke, you're better off without one. Don't need that.
Holly turned out fine. It's okay.
So yeah, Sarah, I wanted to ask you more about... Earlier, we were briefly talking about Rohan. You were saying that he seems to be kind of the breaking point in JoJo where like the fashion starts to go crazy. I wanted to hear more of your thoughts about the fashion of Part 4.
Yeah. Have you either of you seen the start of Part 4 live action movie?
No, actually.
Okay.
I've seen like a couple little clips from the trailers and stuff, but like that's it.
I mean, the plot of it is, it's just the thing. They haven't really done that much with it, but just, it's a movie I really respect in terms of costume design, because I watch a lot of anime live action adaptations. Like, I have a weird obsession with them because they always kind of suck or are incredible. I'm never quite sure which, sometimes both. And I think it's just because of the costume design, because these people are trying to adapt these drawn costumes as accurately as possible, which is just not how it works usually in costume design. You want to make clothes that look like they exist in real life, because that's what clothes do.
Ideally. Most of mine do.
And with JoJo, that adaptation, they just went fucking off the shits. They were like, no, we're going to do the really weird, like, Jotaro hat. Like, it's going to look like that. And it really got to grips with the way JoJo doesn't give a shit about realism in terms of character design, because like usually when you're doing costume design you want to consider stuff like, I don't know, the personality of the character, what they do, what their job is, what kind of things they like to wear, what would be sensible for them to wear. And Araki just said, nah, we're just gonna make them look cool. I'm just going to put them in like whatever I saw on the Moschino catwalk 2 weeks ago. Oh, they're a manga artist. Everything about them is going to be nibs. Let's just fucking go. And like, I just think Rohan is the first character that Araki has really done that with, like to that extent. Sort of Part 3 had fun, fucked up character designs that we all love to see, but like, with Rohan and going forward, I'm thinking, to be honest, more about Part 5 and 6, because those are fresher in my mind. They're more sort of obviously like, you've just taken this from the Milan catwalks of that year. Araki just never bothers considering like realism or comfort, and is just like, okay, what like motif can I repeat? And what weird holes can I cut in this to show parts of this character's body? Because people need to see that.
Yeah. Up to this point, everybody is wearing obviously very identifiable clothes because that's the medium. You got to know at a glance who's who, right? But they are recognizable outfits. Like, I know what to call this piece. I know its name. It is like taking recognizable clothes and personalizing them, customizing them. But beyond this point, like when I see stills of part 5 and part 6, like nobody in the world has ever worn that stuff outside on the street.
Yeah.
Something I've been curious about, especially when Araki starts to go really hog wild with later outfits for Rohan and stuff in part 5 and 6, is because I know that like some JoJo poses, either done for covers or whatever, sometimes those are just poses ripped straight from like a fashion magazine, like some famous photo shoot, and it's just like, well, he liked that pose, now the JoJo part 5 is doing that pose a whole bunch. Like with the costumes he designs, is there any traces of like inspiration from real fashion designers in there, or is it just ape shit stuff?
There definitely is, because I've seen like posts and tweets and also done my own research about where specific pieces might have come from. Like, I think I saw the heart cutout motif that's throughout part 5 in like a Gucci collection from like 1994 or something, but then I couldn't find it again. So I'm like, did I really see that, or did I just imagine it? And like occasionally I would come across something from mostly like, again, 90s fashion. Some like Moschino stuff comes to mind where it's like, that just really seems very JoJo-esque. Like, I think there are certain brands that I get the vibe that Araki was following, like Gucci and Moschino would be up there. But it's never just like direct. I've never seen anything just like directly lifted from a catwalk and put into JoJo, apart from like the poses from editorials and stuff.
Yeah, because I was curious, especially when I watched the animated adaptation of Part 6, and that's where he really starts, like, there's still musicians and band names and song names for character names, but he also starts dumping a lot of fashion designer names in there. When the cliffhanger of this first chunk of Part 6 introduces a new guy named Sports Maximum, and you go, what the fuck is Sports Maximum? And then you find out it's like a handbag or something.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, okay, there has to be some like visual traces of like influence from this stuff in there in some way.
There absolutely is. I just don't quite know enough about fashion to really track it.
You came to the right show. Let us two Midwestern straight boys.
Yep, know a ton about it. Yeah, if that heart cutout motif thing is a real thing, that's might be one of the biggest like traces of that being in his work. Because ever since part 3, there's just been tons of little hearts on so many characters.
Yeah. I noticed that again with like little zigzags and little triangles, especially with like Jotaro this part and a few other characters.
Just big pointy triangles bolted to the boy.
Yeah,
all right, go
all
for
over
it.
the place.
I think we didn't mention it. I think we were talking about this after we finished last week's episode. But Jotaro's more recent change to the medals on his hat, so now he just has 3 like male symbols on his hat now. I love it.
It raises the question, did he bring a lot of hats when he came to Morio, or is there a hat store in Morio, or is he just like on his nights off when people stop calling his hotel room phone, making new hats?
I think he just picks up the phone and says, "Hello, Speedwagon Foundation. I need number 34 for my hat collection, please. Deliver it to me tomorrow."
Yeah, they airdrop it for him.
Out of a cargo plane.
Yeah. For some reason, I was imagining he had some type of special hat where there's like, those metals are magnetic, and he's swapping different metals in and out. It's a modular hat, the first of its kind.
He's going to put refrigerator poetry on his hat.
Yeah. Okuyasu's going to draw him something. He's going to pin it on the top of his hat for everyone to see.
I just need Jotaro to call Okuyasu a special boy. Not metaphorically, I need him to say the words, "You are a special boy."
Out of the main three characters, Okuyasu is the only one who hasn't gotten the Jotaro respects you moment.
Yeah.
Josuke and Koichi have both gotten that, but not Okuyasu.
Because he hasn't been 1 foot in the grave near Okuyasu yet.
I guess
be
so.
careful what you wish for.
Okuyasu just got to hang around, hope someone kicks Jotaro's ass a little bit.
Another point that I've made previously that is only becoming more true as part 4 goes on. I guess I'm very good at this. I don't know. But so many Diamond is Unbreakable stands are about manipulating structure in one way or another. So it's just so fun that Kira's ability is to totally eliminate structure.
Yeah.
And it's such a coherent theme for stand design that the exceptions feel out of place. Like, sorry, Love Deluxe and Harvest, I don't really care that much about you. Your users love you, great, but the stands themselves, they're pretty whatever in the face of, like, Cinderella or even Rat, the rat stand named Rat. And I guess that's part of why I'm not so interested in Act 3's abilities compared to Act 1 and 2 of Echoes. I like what little I've seen of Act 3 as a walk and talking little guy as a character, but 3 Freeze is not nearly as fun as playing with onomatopoeia in all of those various ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think Araki's really onto something with... these characters have weird superpowers. You know, they can affect certain aspects of the world in some way. But also, you get to design a fucked up little guy that embodies that. Real genius stuff.
Yeah, and like the weirder powers seem like a lot more fun to make a fucked up little guy around. I like Act 3's design as a little rude cousin of Hierophant Green kind of way. But the previous 2 Echoes, I love their weird designs. They're just like a weird kit bash of random elements.
And I think Echoes is very unique in the way that it relates to its user. Like, no one else has their stand talk to them and tell them what to do, so far.
Yeah. I'm trying to think about later episodes of Part 4, and I really do think... Like we still get plenty of moments with Koichi from here on out, but that fight of him with Kira really is kind of like the conclusion of his character arc for the most part.
Yeah.
And it's a really good bit. I love all the interactions that Koichi and Kira have with each other in that bit.
Just like his secret dad that he didn't even know about.
Yeah. Koichi being a little man who tells the ultimate villain of this part, eat shit, I'll see you in hell, before he gets punched clean through is really good.
The writing in this part and like fucking narrative tension is so much. Like I read this or watch it over and over again because I like it, and every time I forget how good it is, and every time I come back to the Kira Koichi concluding moments where he then runs away and like it just gets me every single time. And all throughout these parts, the writing and the tension of every fight scene and the conclusions to them are so satisfying. I can't get over it.
And just like the emotional swing of the little guy suffering and persevering through when Jotaro didn't believe in him, and he has the greatest, biggest victory possible. And it swells your heart, and then it's almost all snatched away. Like, no.
Yeah. Part 4 is still like really stand out for me, just having some of the best character writing in JoJo, like the amount that you get invested in some of these people, especially little Koichi, because you want to root for him. The short king.
Part 4 could be twice as long. Just stuff it with more Janken boys, more rat stands.
Yeah, we just need some weird little guys.
As long as every episode has a new weird little guy for a new 2 or 3 character set to go off of, new combinations we haven't really seen before. Because Koichi and Okuyasu alone for one scene with Heartfather was really nice. What if it was like 15 whole minutes of those two going off without Josuke? Wouldn't that be fun? Come on.
Yeah.
You know, with every JoJo part that we completed so far for this show, I enjoy all of of them, but there's always a couple parts where it's just like, oh, I wish they did this, or came back to this, or wouldn't this have been cool? And like my biggest criticism for part 4 is less that stuff and more, man, I wish this was twice as long.
Yeah,
Because so many of the characters they fight and do return for small bits. Every once in a while they do something important. But, man, there's so many characters that I like and want to see more of, but they're not the main cast. And so you don't get that as much as I want, at least.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I want more Tonio. I want more,
Like, I noticed in reading these chapters, a lot of times he'll start out by drawing a map of the town and putting all the little landmarks of places that we've been in the last, 50 chapters. Morio itself and the way he's just started mapping out this like web of different characters and connecting them all, and then in a later chapter he'll go back and revisit that connection and draw on it and connect it to another stand user. All the characters are all so interconnected, and it's almost like, because I noticed in this part where like we have like, Koichi meets Rohan and then Rohan meets Reimi in the alley, and then Reimi was Kira's first victim and that connects him to Kira, and then you have the other strand of like Okuyasu and Josuke meet Shigechi, and then Shigechi meets Kira and gets killed by him, and then those two connect to Reimi, and that like draws all the stand users in together to like go after Kira, and I'm like, oh my god, it's characters.
That reminds me that, like, Rohan is aware that Kira nearly killed him as, like, an infant or a toddler.
Yeah.
But now that Kira is so present and, like, he never outwardly contends with that, and now I'm thinking that it makes so much more sense that this is the one thing other than his book Rohan cares about, like scoping people out at the train station. This is why he's invested.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to say it. I just said it for him. There you go. My gift to you.
Yeah, Rohan will speak for you.
Oh, like he's going to talk about his feelings to all these lessers?
No way.
No, thank you.
God, there's a part in the manga where Araki writes this like fake mangaka interview section for him, and then like
oh shit, really?
It's so good. Like it's like the interview is asking Rohan questions, and Rohan is like, I don't care about that, why are you asking me this question? And then in brackets Araki has penned, Rohan only cares about himself, he will not like address questions that do not relate to himself, close brackets, and like move on to the next question. And like the whole Rohan interview is him just being rude, and then Araki dissing him in the comments in the brackets.
It's such a contrast from Araki's own, like the Araki's Corner bits.
Yeah.
That every time I see one, I read it in my head in the Will Ferrell Harry Carey voice, because it's exactly the same stuff. Araki wonders if I ever think about using hot dogs for money.
Because Rohan is the Araki, these are the stuff I like insert, but definitely not like his self-insert, because everything about Rohan seems like the stuff that's like Araki is like, this is the opposite of me, I'm going to put it in here.
Yeah, like he felt a need when heightening all these aspirational professional dreams, like, yeah, but to counterbalance that, this dude's got to suck on every other level, just crank it all to 11.
Yeah. Just like JoJo in general is cranked to 11. Like, just reading these chapters through, I was like, none of this is like necessary or makes sense, but it's just here. Raki's like, have you seen this? Well, now you have, and you're gonna like it.
I just kind of like how each part of JoJo does get a little crazier than the last in some way, or fights start to get more abstract and stuff like that. It almost feels like each part of JoJo, it's just like Araki shouted something in a really echoey hall, and he just keeps drawing whatever echoes back, and it just gets more and more distorted. Like,
yeah.
One of our previous guests said that at a certain point, JoJo stops being other genres, and JoJo just becomes a genre unto itself, because it's
absolutely.
I think that was Ix. I'm pretty sure that was Ix. So listen to our Q3 Stardust Crusaders episode.
Thanks, Ix.
Yep.
Thanks again for our channel art, Ix.
It rules.
Can't wait to see what part 5 looks like.
Oh, man. Even with part 4, it feels so much more like Araki's own thing, rather than part 1 and 2, which are a lot more just like, okay, this is kind of Fist of the North Star in a lot of regards, especially visually. I don't know, I just love seeing the evolution of JoJo.
Yeah, because I only read these parts, I didn't go backwards to this first half or the Stardust Crusaders, like, is there something that Araki seems to have, like, let go of in order to focus more on this day-to-day life stuff that he's doing at the moment?
I mean, the travel is a big thing that is huge in previous parts, but is no longer present. Just sticking in one spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, being thorough in fleshing out this one place.
And also, like, I mean, it's starting to come back now with Kira finally being introduced and murdering people. But they're certainly, like, the show is still really violent, but it's a lot less, there's a lot less death.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because before it felt like, oh, how do we make someone scary? Well, they're going to, like, kill someone in a disgusting way on screen. Whereas this is like, how do we make something tense? And it's the scene of Kira inside the gym horse.
Yeah.
And the tension is, are they going to see the hand? And, like, that's so much better than, death, blood, bad.
It's way better than, say, Alessi.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like Alessi, but that fight at least had one good tense part, which was just the fear of being aged so much you turn into a fetus. I like that part. But
I mean, so much of the tension in Diamond is Unbreakable, a good portion of it is just not knowing whether you're in danger or not.
yeah.
Yeah.
That feels more appropriate for this setting, which is just a town, because, yeah, you're probably not going to die walking around a town, but all these strangers might be fucking weird. And in Morio, they are fucking weird.
Everyone's weird.
Watch out, that grandma's the lady who relishes hostage situations. Don't talk to her.
Is the one nice stranger in Morio just like the guy that tends the cemetery? It's like, oh yeah, Rohan, I recognize you from when you were like 3.5.
Remember when you got kidnapped by a serial killer? Yeah, like, so much of this JoJo is just like uncovering a mystery. Compared to, like, oh, we gotta defeat a guy. It's like, no, we've got to find out, like, what this stand does, which I do feel continues as the core thing of JoJo.
Yeah, the later parts also, I mean, they're all different, but still a bigger core of mystery.
But part of the stretch we're talking about today is conceptually one of the strangest parts of JoJo's, or at least unusual for the series. Like, between Akira getting got and Kira asserting himself, there is no overarching goal. They're just waiting for more random stand users to make themselves known and see if they're dangerous or not. They're just chilling for a while.
Yeah, they're just chilling. It's essentially just cleaning up the mess that Keicho and Akira made with the arrow. Well, actually, looking at the episodes from this part, it's you got the 2 episodes with Rohan, and then you get Let's Go Hunting, and then we actually do, just in the 4th episode of this chunk, that is when we get introduced to the greater plot with Raimi.
And it's extended sort of Kira coda.
Yeah. Which, by the way, love Raimi. She's fun.
Yeah.
Why is Raimi not the most popular character in all of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
I don't know.
Can either of you explain this to me?
I don't know.
Girl.
People are too obsessed with Rohan's midriff. That's
Which
why.
is fair.
Most people like at least one girl. I don't see... In one way or another, most people like a girl. Maybe 2. Maybe more.
For $50, name one girl in JoJo. Yeah, it's just like, I love how she just comes out and she's like, I'm a ghost, but I'm fucking nice. Why are you running away? Like, she's just here to help.
The tension of not knowing if you're in danger or not.
Yeah. And this time, it's just a person. They're a ghost, but it's just a person.
Mm-hmm.
She just wants to tease you for being an asshole. She's a ghost, so, like, what's the worst you can do to her?
Raimi doesn't pop up a ton throughout this, but we do see more of her. I still feel like most of her interactions are with Koichi and Rohan, since they're the first 2 to meet her. But I don't know, it's kind of nice in JoJo to just get, like, despite her being a ghost, she's like one of the most normal people in JoJo.
Yeah.
She's just
embodiment of opposites. Yes.
Yeah, she is just a teenage girl who's pretty fun to hang out with. And that is also another fun contrast to have.
She has the only dog safe from harm in the entire series.
Yeah.
Because again, what's the worst you can do? Come on.
Gotta say that the panel of the dog with its throat ripped out is like, I don't like to look at it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's worse than the manga.
Oh god, very bad to see.
Oh, okay.
All dogs must die except for those that are already dead.
Yeah. If a dog is dead, it's safe.
The only way to be safe as a dog.
Can't be killed if you're dead.
Ooh.
There you go.
Tricked.
There has been a decrease in dog death for sure, but like, I'm trying to remember the next time it happens. I know it happens at least one more time. And there is actually a certain point. I found a Twitter account, I think, a little while ago that was just like a JoJo gimmick account that just documents the last time a dog died in JoJo. And actually the last time a dog dies in JoJo, I think, is in part 4.
Oh.
But then in part 5 onwards, JoJo just kind of moves on to other animals getting annihilated and exploded. So I think he just moves on to just the animal kingdom in general and gives dogs a rest.
Is the last dog in linear time, so not Arnold the ghost dog, is the last dog to die still Angelo biting the face off of that dog?
I think so, yes. Yeah.
Araki started considering spider death, and it just opened up from there.
Yeah, whole new world. So many legs.
Do we count Tonio's little cute puppy exploding for a second? Do we count that?
It got better.
It got better.
Better than before.
I guess so.
I do think it still comes under dog endangerment.
Okay, yeah, it was an experiment. Like, the outcome was not certain. That cannot be ignored.
Yeah. Poor little dog just exploding.
I do think dog endangerment, it still counts whenever it's just a dog and it's drawn badly. Like, that counts as dog endangerment, I feel.
There are a lot of weird-looking dogs in the manga, for sure.
It's endangering the public perception of dogs. It's more of a societal issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy that Yukako got another episode. Mm-hmm. I always want to see more of her. She's really fun.
Were these Yukako episodes... Was this Yukako redemption arc or not?
You mean in intention, or...
Is she good now? Do we like her now?
I like Yukako, but...
If she's good now, then she was good before, because I don't think she changed at all.
Yeah.
I think she's just a lady with a bit of an anger problem.
A bit.
And the only reason that she acted out was because she suddenly had a ghost superpower. And that was just like, well, time to fuck shit up. Fucking angry today.
So more like Koichi acceptance arc.
Yeah. Koichi realized he likes ladies that are angry and assertive, and so now it's cool.
Good for him.
I mean, he never saw her set fire to the class rep.
That's true. Maybe he just doesn't need to know about that part.
There is a very like powerful and relatable story of like, okay, you think you need this, this, and this, but what you really need is to just talk to the person you like and go spend time with each other instead of staring at him from 40 feet away.
Can't really it.
I also just really enjoy Yukako because she is, like we've said before, a character from a completely different manga and genre, essentially, slotted into the world of JoJo, and that gives part 4 more types of stories to tell. Like, you would never see any of the stories that the Yukako episodes focus on in Stardust Crusaders. Or part 1 or 2. You wouldn't see any shit like this.
Okay, but if you did, it would be Avdol and Polnareff.
I mean, yes.
Obviously.
Absolutely.
I don't know which one is which.
Yeah. I have to think about this after the podcast.
Actually, speaking of Polnareff, Janken Boy has his outfit. Is that just me?
I pointed this out, actually, when we recorded this last weekend. Yeah, it's
that's fucking leather-studded armor. He's a baby witcher.
Yeah, he totally looks like he's wearing Polnareff's top. I don't know what you call that.
It's a garment. It's fashion. It's fashion. It's called fashion. Look it up.
Janken Boy, though, is a really interesting case in like the way stakes work and in Diamond is Unbreakable, because like Rohan is fighting to just not be annoyed. Ken is fighting to like assert his will and know that like he will be there's a place for him in the adult world that he can excel and be everything he wants to be. While Pappy Kira is like, yes, your first kill. Let the hate flow through you. You will be a wonderful warrior.
It's part of his winter training. But yeah, it's so weird to go from like the like sheer heart attack fight and like fucking Jotaro dies, Koichi dies, Kira escapes and becomes a new kind of guy, and then the photograph incident, and then we have like Janken Boy, for which like the tension and the stakes are almost just as high because sort of, I guess, Rohan's sort of livelihood and stand and entire sense of self is on the line. But they're just playing rock, paper, scissors.
They're playing rock, paper, scissors 40 feet in the air while screaming. That's the point. That's the difference.
I remember the first time I watched that episode, I just lost my shit seeing them jump that high in the air and like do flips before throwing rock, paper, scissors. It's not any more normal in the manga. Like they're if anything, they're doing even weirder poses and in less realistic, acceptable, normal positions. Yeah. Like all the animated parts, like especially the earlier parts of JoJo where Araki's art wasn't as clean. Like the anime cleans a lot of those panels up to make them a little like more on model and stuff. But I kind of love the jankiness of the earlier parts because the poses they strike are so fucked up and incredible.
Oh, it's like, so good. It
loops around from I don't quite know how to draw anatomy entirely right yet to like, oh yeah, this was intentional.
Yeah. And I think these chapters, because like I'd never read the manga before this week, and I was like, oh, let's like dip into this for podcast purposes. And it's like I've read the later parts of the manga where like the art is almost entirely based on Michelangelo's David and various models Araki has found, and everyone just looks like so perfect. And then there's like the early chapters where it's like sort of Fist of the North Starified, and it's sort of scribbly and loose, and you can't quite tell if that's what it's supposed to be like or if that's just how Araki ended up drawing it. But like these chapters in particular hit like a balance between those two things where it's like very clearly like the faces are drawn with that like perfection of the David statue, but then like the poses are a lot like looser and more expressive. But it's honestly much more effective than, say, reading through bits of part 8 because of just the way he uses like tone and shadow, and especially considering like Kira, because Kira in the like in the anime he looks like David Bowie, but in the manga he really fucking looks like David Bowie.
And more than David Bowie did at some points in his life.
Yeah, very much so. And I think the reason for that is because he's so kind of like almost like nubbly and wonky and craggy in the face, instead of where in the anime he's sort of just perfectly smooth. Like the drawings aren't yet this perfect smoothness that I've come to expect from Araki.
Yeah, I mean, part 4 and I guess even the middle bits of part 4 seem like such a watershed. Like there's before and there's after, and part 4 has this mix of like having a foot in both, often the best of both from the scuttlebutt that crosses my eye.
Yeah, I would definitely say this is the best of both.
It is wild to see like the evolution of one guy's art over like 30 years at this point, I think. I'm trying to think what other parts or what other things have had a singular author run for that long other than One Piece.
Yeah.
Where it's been the same guy the whole time. And there's been this many changes, because I feel like a lot of other manga, they eventually hit a look, and that's like, okay, this is what this looks like. And so if there are any changes to the style or art, they're a lot smaller.
Savage Dragon, I believe, is the longest running US comic with a sole creator. And I don't think there are eras of Savage Dragon the way you can talk about JoJo's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like usually there's the you know, the first few volumes of whatever this is, and they look a bit weird, and then, you know, the rest of them they've gone back and they've corrected the art style to make them good again. Because like I've been reading a lot of Tintin for a Tintin podcast lately, and it's all just like, we've corrected this to make it
Not
universal.
all he went back to change.
But just for this, you don't really have like, oh, I'm just going to sort of flip genres in the middle, and now it's all about fashion baby and animal death. Well, I mean, it was always about animal death. Because of the parts system and the Araki sort of predisposition to change genres between parts, between chapters, and just do genre of the week. It's just good.
Yeah. Like, you know, sometimes Araki seems to drop plot threads or ideas or whatever just because he's like, well, I don't like this actually. I'm bored with it. Let's do something else. But that also does lead JoJo to change significantly almost every part. And I really appreciate that. So if sometimes a little girl like Anne gets introduced and then she's nothing, well, okay.
Yeah, looking at you, snow car incident.
Yes. Peek behind the curtain. Sarah has provided the notes she took in preparation for joining us today with us instead of like keeping them like a poker hand like everyone before her. And so there are two things on here that I don't think we've touched on directly. One is the flashback with the snowed-in car. The second, just quote, Araki off the shits with this one, lads. I don't know if we've spoken to that directly.
Yeah, we have, because we've spoken about how good the writing, pacing, and tension and everything about this section is, and that's what I mean by Araki off the shits with this one.
All right, then let's talk about this flashback. Okay, thank you for agreeing. This is definitely time-traveling Josuke.
That's everything
He's got
about
the purple
it.
stud earrings and everything. Like, it's undeniable.
Yeah, when I saw this part the first time, I was also like, okay, Josuke is his own hero. He traveled in time somehow and saved himself.
Yeah, Grant, what are your predictions as to when this is going to get resolved? Don't read my notes.
I mean, there's that new spin-off manga that just started.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The one that says Kakyoin came from Morio?
Yeah.
I haven't read it yet.
He's definitely Koichi's dad. Yes, absolutely.
I haven't read it yet, but I'm very happy about that detail.
What other town could produce our gamer freak big ups to my man?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, you know, wearing a cool pair of shades is a thing in Morio, as we see from the little invisible baby. She's probably inspired by Kakyoin.
Maybe that's why they can't find the baby's family. Are they even trying? I hope they are. Every time we're not seeing Joseph, I hope he's like calling some sort of government agency or a private eye or something.
Listen, I mean,
but
JoJo's requires me to suspend my disbelief for a lot of things, but I can't quite suspend it quite that much.
But yeah, that's why they can't find this baby's parents. They are part of Kakyoin's family, who just abandoned town in their grief on the like 11-year anniversary. Why then? I don't know. They're weirdos. They're Kakyoin's family.
Yeah, they heard Joseph was in town.
Like, oh, we got to get the fuck out of here.
We can't find the baby. It's fine. Just leave her.
Wait, two of them? Two of the kids' friends are here? Oh, we gotta leave town. Bad stuff is happening. If the French one comes, the town is going to explode.
Yep. Keep them out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Janken Boy is embodying the spirit of Polnareff. So that's bad enough.
God, that hole in his face, man.
I hate the hole in his face. It's so gross. Man, I love, like, the entire two-parter of Yoshikage Kira Just Wants to Live Quietly is great, but I really love that opening bit, shopping for sandwiches with the hand. Man. If there's any moment I think of regarding Kira that, like, embodies him totally, it's that fucking sandwich shop scene. It's always the scene I go to first. What a fucking freak, man.
Yeah.
Dunking the hand into the sandwich.
They're good sandwiches, man.
The part that really gets me about that is specifically that it is included in it that he takes a different sandwich.
Yes.
And therefore, someone else has picked up that sandwich and eaten it, probably been like, oh, this one's got a hole in it, but it's fine. It's a really good St. Gentleman's sandwich. I'm going to eat it. And they don't know that a dead person's hand has been fingering it.
Like Kira knows that what he just did is disgusting, so well, I'll take the one under it.
That scene is possibly the most eroticized thing I've seen in years.
Yeah.
Certainly in JoJo's. Like, they don't go there often, like practically ever, but damn.
Yeah, when they do.
It's just so gross.
In the manga, is there the sandwich next to the sandwich that is clearly just a gynecological diagram, but colored to look like a sandwich?
Let me return to it and see. That is not a thing I noted. But again, like, it is in black and white. It's probably just less noticeable. And also, I'm not really prone to pussy spotting. Please load. What? Should a jump app said no this time? You can fuck off. You fucking freak. So I really like Harvest for, I think it's the only stand that's named after specifically a record label other than like a band.
Well, it's also named after an album.
Oh, is there an album called Harvest?
Yes.
I assumed it was named after the record label that Pink Floyd and several other prog rock bands were on in the early 70s.
Could well be.
I'm simply scrolling. Yoshikage Kira Wants to Live Quietly, Part 1. Oh god, he really does just simply look exactly like David Bowie. Don't see any gynecological diagrams. Seems like the real freak here is David Productions.
Okay, there we go.
That's pussy, babe.
Okay, all right, I'm not crazy.
Yep. That's totally what that sandwich is, yeah.
Yeah, I had to see this one, so I'm sending screen caps.
Oh boy.
Oh god, look at that.
That's some tasty fingers right there.
Oh, that's a bad face.
And he's just doing this in the store.
Yeah.
No one notices.
It really is just like the level of like comfort that Yoshikage Kira has with doing his freak shit out in the world.
Yeah.
Unacceptable. Don't do that.
He must have had a good nail day to be confident enough to do this in the middle of the store.
Oh, right, yeah. I really like that additional detail of him like measuring fingernail growth as like divination, because that's just a fucking bizarre, weird thing to do.
Yeah.
You already know he does weird stuff when he knows he's alone, but just like getting more evidence of how weird he is when he knows no one is watching him, like, ugh.
Yeah.
It's a very narcissistic sort of outlook, right? Like, the world has a plan for me, and it tells me what I need to do through my own body.
Yeah.
It's very self-focused.
Yeah.
Because you could contrast that with Rohan, who's the most narcissistic, selfish character in this part, arguably. But it's a different kind of narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
I was also trying to look up those manga panels, and I accidentally ended up going off topic now. Third Google result was an archive of our own fan fiction in which every single major JoJo villain lives together in one house.
God, that's a big house.
It's a big house. Like, there's tags on here, and one of them just says cannibalism.
That makes sense.
I guess if you have the Pillar Men, that would make sense, actually. They need to eat vampires.
Makes sense.
Look at these smooth boys.
One of my favorite things is seeing like previous JoJo characters in like the new JoJo style.
Oh, yeah.
It's so good.
Whenever these scenes, I mean, so far it's happened like, twice in part 4, but whenever these scenes come up in the anime, they like make a point as like a sort of Easter egg throwback to draw them in previous part styles.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the manga, not so much, huh? That's just...
Yeah, we just have smooth little Jotaro.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, in later parts of the anime, they do start to do those flashbacks with the current style of the part. So there will be a part in a later season where you get to see essentially the same Stardust Crusaders flashback shot of the whole gang. But man, they're all really smooth and young looking.
That's not the whole gang.
That's right, where's Iggy?
I see no dog.
Where's the dog? He helped.
I want to see what a part 4 Iggy looks like.
Oh, man.
What, is he another breed now?
He was the puppy in the cage who exploded.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
For his good deeds, he came back as a cute dog this time.
Let's talk about the good little boy, rest in peace, our jingly jester friend Shigechi.
He's just so nasty. But you really... his nastiness kind of is what makes him good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you come to enjoy the little goblin guy.
Yeah. It's unique, I think, in his episodes in that, like, Okuyasu and Josuke are kind of the villains of those episodes.
A little bit, yeah. They're trying to take advantage of this, I think, 6-year-old child. I know they say he's supposed to be in 8th grade, but I don't believe that.
Nah, I'm looking at him. This is an orb that Araki has drawn for me to ponder.
But yeah, his proportions, his little spikes, his obsession with coins. He is a goblin. He's an actual fantasy goblin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I just love, like, character design-wise, I love the little beads that go around his shirt. I love those.
Yeah, it's something like you look at him, you're like, what are his head nubs? Are they bone growths? Are they some kind of hair? Or does he just, and he's just like that.
Bart Simpson was huge when this was being posted.
I feel like part 4 is also the point where Araki starts drawing people with... He starts introducing more body types, but the body types are frequently like little freak, little guy.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen multiple adult men who are about 2 feet tall now. And that just keeps happening. And in later parts, we get like...
Why do you think that guy works on shoes? He can't reach any of the other clothes.
Yeah. And like in later parts, we start to see more extensions of like the weird nubs on Shigechi's hair, where suddenly there are prison guards in Florida who have fucked up heads. I don't know what's happening with them, but they're messed up.
Yeah, I respect the anime so much for just looking at what Araki drew in the manga and going, guess they look like that. Yeah, that's what we're gonna animate.
Some of these people look like they need to go to a doctor. Like, it's no longer just like, you got weird head nubs. It's just like, what's wrong with your face? Are you okay? It looks like everything is swollen.
In this part, we also get, the Cinderella man stand and that whole kind of almost sort of phrenology type stuff of the beautician being like, well, the proportions of your face and body will determine your fortune in life. So I guess this is just these people's fortune in life is to be fucked up little guys, and that's what works for them.
Despite Shigechi really only being in like, what, 4 episodes total, the 2 where he gets fought and then the 2 where he hangs out and then dies.
Yeah.
The story makes you like Shigechi pretty quickly and make you feel bad that, he fucking got murdered.
Because is he the first major death in this part?
Yeah.
And he's the death that sort of kicks everything off to finding Kira.
That is absolutely true. The only contender for a previous major death, I guess, would be Josuke's grandpa.
Yeah,
he was a cop.
Also true.
He was a named character that died during the events of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shigechi's hits way harder, because, like, Grandpa is just, like, an inciting incident, and it's just like, well, he had to die to make the story start, basically. But
We already have police. He's a very good dog.
Yeah. But yeah, Shigechi, like, his death actually hits. And it's just like, oh shit, like, Shigechi got murdered. Anyone can get murdered now. Especially if they're a little guy.
Sweet little greed monster.
Yeah.
He's so lovable and nice and writes up IOUs for like $1.
Yeah. And like I noticed when reading the manga, because the line of Killer Queen has already touched the doorknob is like a, long-standing like sort of JoJo meme that like, that's the Kira thing that is said. But in the manga, like the panel of that is a tiny little to the side panel, like not so, it's not like say Jotaro approaching Dio panel that's also a meme that everyone references when thinking about Dio. But it's just that the line and the sort of narrative place that Killer Queen has already touched the doorknob has in killing Shigechi off, it just really gets you. And it sort of earned its place in JoJo memedom, not through a haha funny drawing or a haha funny translation. It's just good. The
moment is great, but it's a moment that pays off Shigechi's desperate struggle to survive. And like, he's not trying to save anybody really. Like, yeah, he wants to stop this guy from hurting his mommy and his daddy. He knows the stakes here, but he's just desperate to not die before he really begins life.
Yeah.
And then the other part that gets me about that part is that there's a sort of secondary chapter epilogue part after that where everyone like gathers together and like goes to the ghost alley to talk to Remy, and like we get to see there's just like this montage of all the different stand users who've been brought together by this little goblin freak's death.
Compared to previous parts, this is the most actual like mourning we've seen for someone dying, because it's always either been we have to keep going or everyone's manly, so they shed one tear and walk on. And now we got a bunch of teenagers and old people and they're just sad.
Yeah, there's the bit where like I think it's Okuyasu who seems to be like the most affected by Shigechi's dying. And like, you know, he's been the sort of the most like, I'm the man, I have no brain cells character.
And also because like that, he's upset there because it's also reminding him of his failure to save his brother from being murdered, basically. Like, he has baggage from that. And I kind of like how, like, aside from the fight between Okuyasu and Red Hot Chili Pepper, Okuyasu's like character development and moments are a little more in the background and subtle compared to, say, Koichi, who is in the forefront when he's experiencing his development. Whereas like Okuyasu, despite being this like kind of loud, goofy doofus, like whenever he's actually feeling things and going through shit, he's really quiet and like kind of in the back, like he slinks back into the background.
Yeah, it's opposites again.
You know whenever Koichi makes a breakthrough because he swears a lot and gets a new haircut.
He powers up.
This Kira scene just reminds me of another thing that I think is unique. I mean, it's only the second part with stands, and it's a stand thing, so it's going to be a little unique. But so many of our characters, allies and irredeemable villains alike, have no idea what a stand really is or how to deal with stand interactions. And it's our heroes going around teaching this thing. Whereas in part 3, everybody they fought was like a stand expert. It seemed like they had them for life, which is part of why the revelations about the arrows are kind of don't land for me. But and it's our heroes who are learning what they can do step by step. Around by the time they get to Egypt, they got it. But still, it's very, very different in Diamond is Unbreakable, where so many people are like, wait, you can do this too? Let me immediately find out a way to kill you.
Yeah.
Like it's cool, like it's cool even to see the main villain Kira go like, oh shit, other people have this stuff? Okay,
It's called a what now? Okay.
Yeah.
Except
I got it.
somehow, and I'm wondering if this is another secret hidden ability that the Arrow has. Somehow they're all compelled to name them after some kind of band.
Yeah.
They just know to do that.
Previously, everyone seemed to have known that they had to get their stand name from a deck of tarot cards, and also they had to make sure to draw a card no one else had yet. So,
at least in Mario, it makes a little sense. I mean, they've got that wonderful radio station everyone loves so much.
That's true, yeah.
I guess we can guess what is most in rotation at Moriocho Radio by how people are naming their stands.
Yeah.
Looking at these screen grabs you've shared just reminds me how, like, part of the difficulty of adapting this is, like, Araki's panels, they're all over the place. They're any size, any shape. A lot of them are very, very vertical, especially reaction shots will just be a head in the bottom and words or just, like, reaction onomatopoeia in the top in a long, thin strip. But anime can't do that. Like,
yeah.
Anime can split the frame, but there is a constant frame at all times.
Yeah.
It really is impressive, like, how closely David Productions has been able to mimic the style of the manga. Not just visually, but in its presentation and all that. Like, it almost feels like there are no other animation studios out there that could do JoJo the way David Productions does. It feels like one of those rare productions you get where there's a bunch of like super fans of that thing they're
Yeah.
adapting
Yeah.
on the staff.
Yeah, because there's, and again, I've been thinking about this, talking about Tinted, like there's a different way that time moves in comics panels than can be achieved in animation, because animation, like everything is constantly moving, but comics, in making your brain do the work itself, fundamentally does a different thing.
Yeah. So many of these stands interact with the structure of comics that I kind of wish, I don't know, you don't want to change much, right? Or it's not the thing anymore. I get that. But like, I can't see the hand without thinking of panel gutters, you know? Maybe I'm just Grant Morrison poisoned, but...
At some point, I'm going to have to go back, especially through part 4, because I read the part 4 manga once years ago. I kind of want to re-examine at least some of it, just because when I was reading it, I was not thinking about panel layout at all. I'm curious to see what the panel layouts are like now, just because, well, I haven't read a ton of Grant Morrison stuff. Just through Grant, I am also a little Grant Morrison poisoned.
Become Grant pilled.
Read Multiversity with me. You'll love it, I promise.
Okay. All right. I'll do it. But yeah, now I'm curious kind of to actually like study the panel layouts of Araki's stuff. Like how deliberate a lot of it feels, or if it's just like, well, here's panels.
Here's what I mean. This seems to me a typical like reaction shot.
Oh yeah. Really long and narrow.
Yeah, because that's a shape you can slot in between two panels or at the side of a panel.
Yeah, it's very useful for like page Tetris.
Yeah, and like it's a very speedy panel shape as well.
I'm also curious if like these very vertical, thin strips of panels he uses sometimes also probably makes a bit more sense when you think, at least when I've seen a lot of like untranslated manga, there's a lot more word bubbles in manga that's very vertical.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot easier to just have a vertical line of characters in there, because it's all, you know, grid bait or they're all square characters, so it looks nice. And I wonder if that kind of informs the panel layout a bit too, like with the flow of the characters and stuff.
Yeah.
I keep looking at this one panel where Kira looks absurdly David Bowie. I just keep looking at it.
Ridiculous. Yeah, because like I'm realizing that a lot of the way that I have, because I've like drawn the occasional like manga based thing. Like specifically I drew a fan manga for the podcast Anime Sickos.
Oh, nice.
But I'm realizing that like everything, my approach to that is very much based on JoJo, and like all the panels being at like funny angles or being like a lot of diagonals on the page. Because I also like remember watching, there was I think a Japanese TV series called Man where they follow like manga artists. That was on YouTube for a while, but it got taken off. And like I was watching through that, being like, okay, like how am I going to approach like drawing a manga, and like just like looking at like other mangas like Demon Slayer, where everything is really quite like square and like in ordered, almost like Tintin-esque in how it's laid out, and then going back to Araki and it's like blah, 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 and I'm like, yeah, this is what I want to do.
I'm curious to eventually read later parts. With the change of his art styles, every once in a while I've seen like an out of context page from like the most recent part 8, and sometimes I'm going like, what in the fuck is happening? Like panel layout's fine, but it's just like trying to interpret the art, and I'm just like, what is this? I'm curious if actually just reading it makes it make more sense, or if it's just like there's something it changed in the way of his art and the way he's like staging these panels that makes it a lot harder for me to decipher.
No, I definitely remember being like really quite confused when reading like, I mean probably more like part 5, because I read part 5 before the anime came out, and I wasn't really quite sure what had happened in it. So I was excited for the anime to come out so I could figure out what happened in part 5.
Part 5 has a couple fights where it's very much like, what?
Yeah, because this section of JoJo was really nice and easy to read, because the fights are like, there's really not much like punching going on. It's just like, where's the rat action sequences. Yeah. But I don't know, like I feel like that's kind of a problem that I have with manga sometimes. Like, you know, I read through Jujutsu Kaisen a few months ago, and like I have no idea what happened in any of those fights. I'm just like, there was a lot of lines on the page, and I guess I'll find out when the anime comes out what happened.
There was a much earlier recap episode we did with my girlfriend Voiberger. I believe I said back then that especially for the later parts of JoJo, Araki's artwork really feels like it benefits from color to make it more decipherable, at least for the later parts. Because a lot of his manga, or all of them except part 8 maybe, have colorized versions now, at least in Japan. The colorized version of part 4, I remember people had issues with that one because it wasn't as crazy color-wise as like the anime is.
Yeah, I have a distinct memory of like trying to read part 5 manga and then be like, nah, this isn't happening, and then finding the color version and be like, oh, I understand now.
Yeah. I totally understand this flattened boat that was wrapped up over another boat like plastic wrap. What?
Yeah, don't worry about it.
That is one of the hardest ones to decipher, I think. But anyways, part 4.
Yeah, I think to conclude, the thing I think about the manga is that this section and this style of storytelling, where it's not a punch fight, it's just a weird mystery they have to figure out, is the easiest to understand, and I think Araki's strongest thing that he does.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons why part 4 is still probably my favorite. Although what I've seen of part 6 so far, I've also really enjoyed.
Well, Sarah, thanks again for coming to join us. Before we all say our goodbyes, is there anything you would like to point our listeners towards? I know you are very productive.
Yeah, I have like 6 podcasts. Go to twitter.com and I'm at Sarah McCostumes, MCC Costumes, and I think they're all in my bio. I think the ones most relevant to this podcast are, I already talked about the Tintin podcast I'm doing. The name of that is Tan 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 Tan. But you can just go to tintinpodcast.com to find that. I also have a Yu-Gi-Oh podcast if you want to hear me talk about our favorite little Pharaoh ghost boy.
What's that Yu-Gi-Oh show called?
Oh yes, the Yu-Gi-Oh show is Pot of Greed.
And what's that do?
That we just watch Yu-Gi-Oh and we talk about it.
Oh, I thought you got to draw more cards.
Oh fuck, I missed the bit. Oh no.
Pot of Greed is a really good name for that podcast.
See, we're getting to the part of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX where the card Pot of Greed has been banned. So now we're like, we got stuff like Pot of Avarice and Avatar of Greed and all the weird like pot-based spin-offs. And I'm so excited to get into that shit.
Okay, so is this just the part where the card was banned in actual play, or does it get banned in the anime?
I assume that the anime tries to reflect the cards that are happening in real life so that you buy them. Yeah. So yeah, the pot has mysteriously disappeared from the anime with absolutely no explanation.
Okay.
Is what's happened.
I was desperately hoping there was a character going like some judge in an episode going like, Pot of Greed cannot be played anymore.
No!
And that's why we've been struggling for Pot of Greed decriminalization ever since.
But yeah, that's pretty much me. Go to Sarah McCostumes on Twitter and you can find all the other podcasts I do. There's like 17. That's an exaggeration. There's only 7.
Another thing, in addition to Rohan's abs just being fully out in the Jonkin Boy episode that we failed to mention, is it's the 100th episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure to be animated.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Nice. Yeah. So we have, by talking about it now twice, we have met a big milestone on this show. You know what other show reached 100 episodes recently? Riverdale. So that's why I want everybody to go listen to one of my other shows, Sex Archie, where we talked most recently, because we are now in a mid-season break, about episode 100, the Jughead Paradox. Not only an episode 100 celebration, but also the finale to the Rivervale miniseries event. Does it handle both of those tasks ably, simultaneously? Each one separately is real good, I'll say that. So yeah, you can find that all the usual places. I do enjoy making Sex Archie, and it is wild that I've reached 100 episodes at the same time on both of these shows. Weird quirks of history there.
Yeah.
It's like stand users always attract each other.
It's true.
It's probably.
And so do 100th episodes.
There we go.
So we will be back next week talking about episodes 27 through 29 of Diamond is Unbreakable, I'm an Alien, and Highway Star Parts 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah.
God, fuck, they're so good. I'm going to keep reading the manga for the rest of the day. The shit fucking rules.
It's so good.
All right, and we will see you then. To be continued. Later.
To be continued.